Okay, fight fans, we got our favorite guy here, Chris Mannix. There's no
Our
debate
favorite
today.
guy? What are you talking
Well,
about?
listen,
Yo, everybody knows Mike Coppinger's my favorite guy. So what are you talking about?
Listen, Tuesday afternoon, Chris broke some major news regarding Jake Paul. I mean, can we take this to the bank, Chris? Is Jake Paul fighting Hasim Rahman Jr.? Is it 100?
Yeah, it is 100%. Jake Paul was scheduled to face Tommy Fury on August 6th at Madison Square Garden. There was a press conference scheduled last week at MSG. Tommy Fury was denied entrance into the U.S. for reasons that are still not entirely clear. Jake gave Tommy a deadline of a few days to figure it out. Jake and his team were not satisfied by the efforts that Tommy was making, so they quickly pivoted to Hasim Rahman Jr., someone they're very familiar with. Rahman Jr. has been a sparring partner for Jake Paul in previous fights. He does fulfill that question of, will Jake Paul fight a real boxer, Hasim Rahman Jr., while not having the pedigree of his father, former heavyweight champion Hasim Rahman. He is 12-1 as a professional boxer, and he is a professional boxer. So on August 6th, Jake Paul will face Hasim Rahman Jr.
Chris, is he a better fighter than Tommy Fury?
I think you can make the argument that this is a more difficult fight for a couple of reasons. One, yeah, you can say that Hasim Rahman Jr., who does not have the deepest of resumes and is coming off a knockout loss to James Morrison, is a better pure boxer than Tommy Fury. That's number one. Number two, Hasim Rahman is a heavyweight. He fought his last fight at 220 pounds. Now, I have been told that a fight between Rahman and Jake is going to take place somewhere between the 190-ish pounds that Jake is used to fighting at and the 220-ish pounds that Rahman is. But Jake's going to have to come up in weight for this particular fight. He's going to have to take on a naturally bigger fighter, which will be a new experience for him in boxing. So there are a lot of ways you can argue that this is a more challenging fight.
Well, first off, since this is 100% definite, you said, I want to give Jake Paul credit for taking this fight because I think that Rahman's pedigree is way above Tommy Fury. Yes, he only has 13 fights, but that's a lot more than Tommy Fury. Plus, he has an amateur pedigree. You know, he had over 100 fights in the amateurs. And when you talk about the stuff that he's done in the gym, remember back in the days, Chris, in the Mayweather Boxing Club? I mean, this guy was sparring guys like Brazil, Jarrell Miller, and Michael Hunter. So he has a way more experience than Tommy Fury. And I look at it like this. This is a win for Jake. At first, I was like, you know what? Dang, that's messed up because Jake had such a good opponent that's going to bring a big UK crowd in Tommy Fury. But then I'm like, okay, what's the next thing? After you lose the brother of a great fighter, you get the son of a former champion, that has a name. And he's credible. He's more credible than Tommy Fury. Now we can stop all the questions whether he's going to fight a boxer. And actually, he can lose this fight. I don't think he will, but he can lose this fight.
He can. And that's why Jake deserves, I think, a lot of credit for stepping in against someone that doesn't bring a lot of box office appeal, but does check the box on being a legitimate professional fighter. And look, I'm not so sure Jake had to do this. I often hear the criticism of Jake Paul and scratch my head because the former boxers that criticize Jake need to check their own records. Our good friend Sergio Mora, in his sixth professional fight, fought someone named Warren Kronberger, who was 3-6 at the time and finished his career 4-10. Warren Kronberger sounds like the guy that does my taxes, not a boxer that should be fighting a Sergio Mora. Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., someone that has been rumored to potentially face Jake Paul at some point this year or next year, a legitimate world champion at middleweight at one point. His sixth professional fight came against an opponent who was 0-14 at that time. So boxers jumping up and down on Jake Paul need to look at their own resumes and see who they were fighting in their 6th professional fight.
We've been preaching that, for the longest. So you're preaching to the choir here, but even his father, Senior, has some questionable opponents late in his career. But that's another conversation. I mean, I think this makes Jake looks, so tough. The fact that, we don't know the details regarding, at least they're not talking about the details regarding Tommy Fury being denied an entry, but the fact that he's on social media, giving them ultimatums, and it's making Jake look tough, like he wants to fight a real professional fighter. So the fact that he went on and got to Barack's point, the son of a legend who has 12 fights, I think this should put everything.
I didn't say legend, that's for sure.
No, I'm sorry, a heavyweight
son
champion,
of a former champion.
Son of a former champ. All right, but this should put everything to bed in regards to him fighting a professional fighter. Honestly, I would say that most professional champions now, there's 6 fights. They didn't even fight guys that were 12-1. Most of the guys had losing records. So this is a huge step up and a very risky fight, in my opinion.
I think it ticks a lot of boxes, checks a lot of boxes, because think about it. On one hand, because even myself, I was waiting for him to fight a boxer, and on another hand, he doesn't really care about that because he was trying to still fight MMA fighters before Tommy signed up. So what he really cares about is getting those pay-per-view numbers up, and I think that this is not the best name that they can get, but it's a decent name. Rahman being synonymous with Lennox Lewis. And also, I think Rahman Jr.'s claim to fame was that, back in the days when it was All Access in 2014, when Floyd was about to fight the rematch with Maidana, remember they had the doghouse rules, and I think they tried to sue Floyd. The 2 Rahman sons, Sharif and Rahman Jr. tried to sue Floyd because of the 31-minute round, that they said didn't happen but did happen. So that right there was on All Access, and that was Showtime. So that transcended the sport. That's why I think
most people don't remember that though. I think
fans like myself.
Right. You're a hardcore fan. I don't think this fight is for pay-per-view. I don't think it's no disrespect to the Rahman name. I wouldn't say it's a decent name. Most people don't know who he is. I think this is more so to prove, okay, you guys want a fighter. Tommy can't make it. Let's get this out the way now. Let me fight.
No, but this is the reason also, because this guy is 12-1. He just happened to lose his last one. The referee stopped the fight. I would have stopped it too. There's no way you could say that this would have been an early stoppage, except afterwards you seen that he was, conscious and angry at the referee. But I think it was a good stoppage because he wasn't fighting back. But he has a decent record. So people are thinking that this guy Rahman can beat Jake Paul. So that's why I think people are going to tune into the pay-per-view.
I think one of the reasons I give Jake credit is because I don't think this fight is going to do particularly well commercially, because I don't think too many people are intrigued by Jake Paul against Hasim Rahman Jr. The days of his father are so far removed that many contemporary boxing fans don't really remember him and don't really have much of a desire to see his son step in the ring with Jake Paul. Tommy Fury brought a natural rivalry to all this. There was bad blood between Jake that dates back several years, and there was an anticipation for that. That would have helped with pay-per-view sales.
I don't think so, because that's not America. Nobody knows Tommy Fury in America, and that's what we look at for pay-per-view sales in America.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. It's all one big pot of money. It's all one big, and the money that would come from the UK would have been significant. That would have added to the money that would have been made from this promotion. In addition, I don't think Hasim Rahman Jr. sells tickets. I think Tommy Fury might have sold a few tickets if he was facing a Jake Paul. They're trying to sell out the big room at Madison Square Garden. That is going to be challenging. So the fact that I think this is a commercially worse fight for Jake Paul, and he's still taking it, I give him a lot of credit for doing that.
Yeah, no doubt.
This is what I say. Logan Paul can sell out stadiums fighting anybody, KSI. You know what I mean? So what I think is that we got a month out from this. There's a guy who does this for a living, does that online stuff for a living, does promotion for a living, and his name is Jake Paul. We don't know what he's going to do in this span of 1 month to get people to watch this fight. And the more they promote it and the more people realize that the people that the guy that they want to see lose, which is Jake Paul, most people want to see him lose, is fighting a real boxer, I'm sure people are going to.
Yeah, but it's just hard to manufacture, kind of animosity and build intrigue in a month. It's just really hard to do that.
I think Jake Paul can make anybody mad.
Well, he can, but I would say this. In addition, Jake Paul sells out venues. Like, Jake Paul can sell tickets. He's established that. He did it in Tampa. He did it in Cleveland. He's able to do that. I would argue Jake Paul is a bigger draw than his brother. I mean, his brother did a good number in Los Angeles fighting KSI, but there's so much more intrigue around Jake Paul, the boxer, that I think he'd do better at the gate. The pay-per-view buys, the pay-per-view buys have always been a mystery. There have been announced numbers, and then there have been real numbers. My understanding is that Jake Paul's pay-per-view numbers have not been great. He hasn't done huge numbers on pay-per-view. In fact, I would say that this fight will be the lowest pay-per-view number that he will do since he's been main eventing on boxing cards. And Jake is still doing it. And he's doing it because he wants to prove to the critics that he can fight and he can defeat a quote-unquote real boxer.
Yeah, and I think that he's going to use this. Look, it's a risky fight, so I also give him a lot of credit because, to your point, I do feel it's not going to do great numbers. But Rock, I kind of agree with you to some degree. All right, I think that he'll spruce it up as much as he can, and it'll do okay. But I think it's more of a setup for the next big one that will do big numbers. Meaning, if Jake Paul goes out there and beats and even knocks out a real fighter, son of a former world champion, and then those conversations with the bigger names are going to make more sense.
Right, obviously Canelo's next. Obviously Canelo's next.
No. You know who's next? You know who would be next? Jake wants to fight a former champion. Well, we all know an old, slow, busted-kneed former junior middleweight title
Don't say your guy.
who is, by the way, on social media as we speak, frothing for that fight, begging for that fight. Jake Paul, Sergio Mora, December of 2022.
Don't give Sergio that fight, because if you give Sergio that fight, he'll never show up to work the next day.
Listen,
that's for sure.
I say Sergio gets knocked out by Jake Paul. I know he'll be upset.
Wow.
I know he'll be upset with me. I love you, Sergio, but I just think too many years out the ring, too much youth in Jake Paul. I will recommend Sergio not to take that fight.
Listen, I think Jake Paul has some tricks up his sleeve. And I think, yes, this is not the biggest name. I know that, but I do think most people, just like when Floyd was fighting, they want to see him lose. So if we can build this up as a legit fighter, which it really is, with a lot of experience, I think he's a little, I don't want to say shop worn, but he had a lot of wars in the gym. Right. So he's 31 years old and he's still like a new fighter. He's only had a 4-year career so far, but he's done a lot in the gym. That's experience, but it also can make you a shop-worn fighter. But I think this is a fight that he's thinking he needs to win, especially coming off that loss where he thought shouldn't have been stopped. But I think that Jake Paul has a lot up his sleeve that's going to help with the promotion.
Well, we're only a month away, so we'll see. I like the test that's in front of him, and I'm interested as to what would happen after, if he should beat Hasim Rahman Jr. All right, thanks, Chris, as always.
You got it, guys.